There's a story I'm reminded of. Hulk Hogan and Kevin Nash, they've got to sell out. They're in the main event, WCW in the late 90s at some point. And Kevin Nash, let's say, puts on a nice tight headlock and tries to make it look good. And Hulk Hogan whispers into his ear, "Take it easy, brother. We've already got their money." Was that...
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Is that like the prevailing attitude of the older like generation? It was like, "Look, we've already sold it out. We don't need to do too much." Or do you do even more to try and get a second sell?
Well, it's according to your respect for what you're doing. Because Hulk didn't get there by wrestling. Hulk got there by the body, by them pushing him, by him talking about say your prayers, your vitamin, brother. In his interviews, that's how he got there. He didn't get there by his style of wrestling. So, but I would think really, even the guys that I came up with, the older guys that had more experience than Hulk Hogan had, they still wanted to go out there and tear the house down. I think Flair is, so you never really, you never saw Flair do that. Flair busted his butt every night out there. I will say that for him. He'd do the same thing every night, but he would go out there and he would bust his butt, because an old timer told me one time, he says, "Listen, I don't care if there's 20,000 or 20 people there. It's not the 20 people's fault that nobody else bought tickets. It's not their fault. So go out there and give them their money's worth." So, and I've always believed that. I don't care how many people's there. Go out there and do your best to entertain the people that actually bought the ticket. Because hell, you could be an totally empty house. So, and I'm sure you'd be more jacked to go out there in front of 20,000, but you got to reach down into your personal pride a little bit and say, "I'm going to perform for these people like I would 20,000. You don't have to actually think that, but go out there and just and do your match and do the best you can.
But that's very much a newer sort of outlook. Is you've already filled the arena, you dust your hands off, and your job is done. Now you've just got to sort of tiptoe your way through in the main event, whereas older times wouldn't do that.
Well, they do it in WWE, and they'll do it in AEW, and they'll do it in New Japan, because just because you got a sellout, if you don't go out there and do your best, you know what happens? They get pissed off. Now they feel like they got ripped off. Now, you can't call wrestling fans marks. You got to call them customers. And if you think of their marks like they'll buy anything, well, they won't buy anything. They will just rebel. And next time you try to tell them something, if you don't you say this is going to happen and it doesn't happen, they're not coming back. You're not going to get them a second time. Or you may eventually get them a couple of cards down the road, but you got to give the people what they paid for.
Yeah, it can just take one bitter taste in the mouth, and then you'll never try that again.
Well, in Puerto Rico, I bet I could. I was there 3 years. The last time I was there, I can count my disqualifications on. I bet I had 6 or 7 disqualifications. Maybe not that many. Maybe 3 or 2 or 3 in an important match. But you got to think. You got to weigh in your mind. Well, if I do it here, how are the people going to feel? But when you get a DQ, now you got to add something to that takes that bad taste out of their mouth, because you want them going out that door. It's like anything else. You want them going out that door saying, "Damn, that wasn't too bad. I enjoyed that." But if they're going out bitching and moaning, everybody else is going to go out bitching and moaning too. So